This next section in the New Testament is about the disciples starting to carry out the Great Commission that Jesus gave them. They were to go out into all of the world and spread the news about Jesus. The disciples accepted the responsibility of spreading the good news, and they set out to do so in the 5th book of the New Testament called the Acts of the Apostles, or the shortened version, Acts. In this book, we see some of the early activities of the apostles and how they went about doing the work that Jesus had given them to do. The apostles went out into the world and began to announce God's agenda to all who would hear. They presented everyone with the opportunity to adopt God's ways of life and to join God's true chosen people. In those days, just after Jesus left earth and even up to modern times, God's people were known as the church. Originally, this word church had the meaning of the called out. It was the same word used to refer to a gathering or assembly of people who had been called out of their homes and into a public space for any reason. For example, to attend a public address. So when Jesus said, "I will build my church," he didn't mean he would build a building, but rather he would gather his people together. Anyway, back to the book of Acts. So in the first 12 chapters of the book of Acts, we see some of the activity of Jesus' disciples, namely James, John, and Peter. We also see some of the work of Philip and Stephen. From chapter 13 right down to the last chapter, chapter 28, we see much of the work of Paul, another one of Jesus' disciples. Paul became a disciple of Jesus well after the other disciples, but he was so moved and inspired by Jesus that he perhaps did more to spread the gospel throughout the world than any of the other disciples of Jesus. Paul is seen carrying out 3 missionary journeys. The first missionary journey is recorded for us in Acts chapter 13 to 14, which covers Cyprus and modern-day Turkey. The second missionary journey is seen in chapter 15, which covers Syria, Turkey, Greece, and Jerusalem. And the third missionary journey is covered in chapter 18 to 21, which covers Turkey, Greece, Lebanon, and Israel.